all women will test you. And if you want to learn how to attract and keep the right woman interested in you, you have to learn how to pass these tests. Today you're going to learn very practical examples. You'll get the solution. And I'll also explain to you, which is what we're going to start with, why women test you in the first place. You have to understand that women have to give you these tests to make sure that you have good genetics. Why is that the case? Well, because ultimately, even the ones who don't want to have children, they're still running a programming from 300,000 years ago, where we lived in tribes of 100 to 200 people, and there was one tribal leader, and he had all the women. Why did he have all the women? Well, because he had great genetics, and he had access to resources, which would increase the probability to a maximum that she'd be able to have great offspring. And this is what she wants. Even the women who don't want children, they're still screening for characteristics in your behavior to see whether you're a tribal leader. Now, the challenge they're faced with is that in our society, there's no real way on telling who the tribal leader is. In Ireland, there's 5 million people. In the US, there's 300 million people, 150 million men. Who on earth is the tribal leader? So she's looking for status indicators. And one of the status indicators, out of many, is emotional non-reactiveness. The alpha male, he wouldn't care whether a woman would get upset because he has so many. If you get too reactive to her, if you are more reactive to her than she is to you, you couldn't possibly be a tribal leader. And it sounds a bit silly, tribal leader, but it's just to explain the point. You couldn't possibly be a man worth having children with. If she can throw you off your game with just using her words, how on earth is she supposed to have any faith in your ability as a man to lead a family, to protect her from real danger, if words she utters can make you insecure, if the fact that she's beautiful can make you insecure, if the fact that her gay best friend happens to be next to her, or her friends, or her mother, or whatever circumstance arises that seems like an unforeseen challenge, right? If these things can throw you off your game, then she shouldn't have babies with you. Then you're not worth it. It's a bit of an extreme example. Obviously, you are worth it, but she won't perceive you as such. So, the situation that I talked with one of the clients about in one of the live calls a couple of days ago was such that he's dating a lady now for a couple of weeks, and she got actually very upset when she found out that he was dating a woman that she knew from many years ago and that she evidently liked. And she says, I can't believe you dated her. Why would you date her? How would you react to that? Well, the worst way to react to that is say, well, you know what, I never really liked her. Or to go the opposite way and say, you know what, she actually had a great personality, she was really lovely, the sex was really good. Both ways you're going to lose. If you start justifying yourself and say, you know, she really wasn't that great and I only love you, you come across like a cuck and you're justifying yourself. You're emotionally non-reactive. Bam, test failed. Attraction decreased instantaneously. Now, if on the other hand, you start building her up and you start saying, well, you know, she was rather formidable, educated, her parents were upper middle class, good values. If you start building her up, she's just going to get more jealous. So the congruence test may be there to see how confident you actually are, but it can also be because she's just truly jealous. And in which case she might want some reassurance. Let me adjust the lighting here a little bit while we keep flowing. No problem. Boom. Nice. So it's very important that you don't just run the play of being emotionally non-reactive, which is ultimately the solution to any test, but you also have to gauge what it is that she wants at the moment. So what's a good way to handle that? Well, I'll tell you what I told him to say is, look, this is something that happened in the past. I will under no circumstances justify myself for that. I don't need to justify myself for what I did in the past. I'm with you. I enjoy being in the presence here, and I have no interest in talking about the past. Yeah, but what did it? If she were to say that, I was like, no, I'm not going to have that discussion. This is completely irrelevant. That was in the past. That was a long, long, long time ago. That's it. And then you say anyway, and then you move on. And let me tell you something. If she's not right for you, she's going to keep pressing the issue. If she's going to keep pressing an issue like that after you've clearly communicated a boundary, well, guess what? She was never right for you to begin with. His further worry was such that what happens if she then asks again in the future? if she keeps bringing it up. If she says something like, oh my God, you're sitting at dinner, and she's like, well, I'm sure that Sarah cooked better than this. In a situation like that, you can say, hey, look, I'm not going to play these passive-aggressive games. You can do that with some other beta cucks, not with me. I don't do that. I have no interest in talking about the past. Look, you're amazing. You're awesome. I really like XYZ about you. Very important push-pull, okay? Sandwich. You can't just slap her with a criticism. You can't just slap somebody with a boundary. When you set a clear boundary, you also have to build a little bit of comfort alongside with it, so it's easier to digest. Very, very important social dynamic piece of golden nugget right there for you. So the key is to be emotionally non-reactive. At the same time, you also have to build as much comfort as necessary. Comfort, 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 boundary. Comfort, 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 boundary. Most men are comfort, 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 never a single boundary. Or they're boundary, 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 and zero comfort. In which case, she feels like you're punching her in the face verbally with the arguments, and connection gets lost, and then she might turn away and everything goes shit also. So this is obviously a bit more of an intense test that is a little bit more emotionally charged for whatever reason. Adjusting the light again, no problem, free flowing, nothing throws us off our game, remaining emotionally non-reactive in action. There are many more. She could say, hey, gingers don't have souls. Then you're like, yeah, I know. My parents never hugged me because of that. Ha ha ha. Yes, and. You can say yes, and. You can accept and amplify. You can misinterpret. At the core, it's extremely, extremely important that when she says something, you have to have the core belief that I don't need to justify myself, that you're awesome, and you have to do nothing to impress her. This is the seemingly counterintuitive point that you have to understand, which is on the one hand, obviously you have to improve your communication. Obviously you have to do your best. Obviously it's a performance. But on the other hand, you have to have the belief that I don't have to do to impress her. I am enough. The way I am right now, you are enough. You don't need anything else. You don't need more business success. You don't need the six-pack. You don't need anything else. And by the way, get all of that. Get more of that. Yes, get the six-pack. It's good for you. The best way to boost testosterone is to lose fat. One of my friends is the biggest weight loss coach, definitely the best weight loss coach in Germany. He said that to me. The single biggest lever to increasing testosterone is not to pop some pills, other than like TRT or some stuff like that, obviously. It is just to decrease body fat. So yes, do that. Do these things for yourself. Grow. Self-actualize. You're always going to keep working on yourself. That's never going to stop. But you don't need anything else. You need to do nothing. As long as you're coming from a place on the date that I have to do X, Y, Z for her to like me, you're already lost. You're completely lost. Because there's always somebody who'll score higher on some metric. You can't outcompete. The only way to properly compete is with your own past self. That's the only way to properly compete. Because everything else is an unfair comparison. So, on the one hand, obviously improve your communication skills. Let us help you with that. Apply for a free initial call if you want to. Watch some of the 200-something YouTube videos, 2,500 free videos we have here. Listen to the podcast. Learn the skill set. Get out there. Approach. Dating apps. All of that. Storytelling. Man-to-woman connections. It's all good. Learn it. At the same time, when she says something and you can intuitively perceive it a little bit as a challenge, emotionally non-reactive, and don't be too serious. Don't be easily offended. Fun and playful. You only have to set a boundary if she actually does something disrespectfully. Because a lot of men, they're so business and logically minded that they get offended easily. They either don't set any boundaries, because if she's disrespectful, you gotta set a boundary. Because setting a boundary is one of the best ways to build attraction. Because if she accepts the boundary, she then has to modify her behavior, which builds huge levels of attraction. But oftentimes we also just get very, very offended for no reason. It's playful, it's a game. Social dynamics are a game. Relationships are a game, not manipulative nonsense. That's not what I'm talking about. It's a dance. It's quite literally a mating dance. She just wants to see if she can make you insecure, if she can trigger you. She needs to feel that she can't. She needs to feel that not, and again, this point can also be taken to an extreme, where if you're a robot, some men, and I've seen this also, become so emotionally non-reactive that they become absolutely and utterly weird. You know when somebody has a mask on and they're trying to be a little bit too cool for school? Yeah, 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 no word. That's also not real anymore. You're supposed to be real. I'm very feminine around Fernanda. You're blocking the sun a little bit, my baby. Can you move over a little bit? Because you're blocking the sun. Thank you. I'm very feminine around Fernanda in a lot of ways. I cry when I watch Interstellar. I hug her. 80% of our interactions are like, oh, my baby Chino. I like Kisito. They're very cute. They're very romantic. But the reason that's cool, the reason I get away with that much feminine energy is because she also experiences me and my masculine quite a bit. Most men lack typical masculine characteristics in their communication. Disagreeableness, assertiveness, setting boundaries, being a leader, challenging her, teasing her. If you can't do that, why on earth would she want to be around you? Why on earth should she have any faith in your ability as a man to overcome real challenges, tests by life, if you can't handle a simple congruence test? And some of them are going to be teases about your shirt. Oh, I guess black really is the new black. Yeah, and then you can make some politically incorrect joke. Yes, and accept and amplify the premise. Just say yes, and whatever she says. Yes, and gingers don't have souls. Yeah, my parents, they never hugged me anyway as a child. Ha 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 ha. Yes, and. And this is also a very, very powerful tool for general social interactions if somebody teases you. Now, if somebody teases you to make you feel bad, set a boundary and say, hey, that's not cool. Don't do that. Immediately. Don't do that. That's not okay. Or you can say, hey, I'm confused. What do you mean by that? Depending on whether it's a work situation or something else. But if somebody teases you, just say yes and. If you just want to come across as unbelievably insecure, just say yes and. Self-deprecation and yes and, unbelievably powerful. Now, you don't want to use self-deprecation so much that it becomes a reflection of an insecurity. We all know men who are so ironic, so sarcastic, so self-deprecating, even though these are slightly different things, but they exhibit similar behaviors, that they come across as insecure. So you don't want to do it that much. But one self-deprecating joke over the course of a date, one or two over an hour and a half, amazing. An unbelievable opportunity to build confidence and to come across as a very, very grounded man who doesn't need to justify himself. You don't need to justify. I don't need to justify myself. That's the core frame. And again, does that mean that you don't need to give an explanation? Explain, but keep it brief. Say, this is why. I still have the tendency to want to over-explain because we want to be understood, don't we? Yes, and that's true. But if you do it a little bit too much, she's like, why is he trying so hard? Say, because of that. Why do you need to da-da-da-da? Well, the right woman won't even cause that much drama to begin with. But if she asks, just explain, hey, this, XYZ, build comfort, be intelligent, and then set a boundary. Setting boundaries, being emotionally non-reactive, builds attraction tremendously. If you want us to help you personally, find the right girlfriend or wife, apply for a free initial consultation. Looking forward to speaking with you soon.